Okay, everybody ready? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole meeting. Call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. The time is 9 a.m. Welcome to everybody who's here today and those who are making presentations today. Our city administrator is out for a couple of days, so I'll try to muddle through the agenda here. We do have a quorum present, and those over here in the audience, once again, thank you for coming. We're going to deviate from the agenda here just for a few minutes. Mr. Apurva Patel to give us a hotel update. He's still on his way up. He'll be here in a few minutes. So we'll move to item 2 on the agenda, which is Dave Fink from St. Louis County Environmental Services, the director, to give us an update on the St. Louis County Regional Landfill in Virginia. And Mr. Fink, thank you very much. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting, and we just turn that light on to green. And for the record, please state your name and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Dave Fink. I am the director of the St. Louis County Environmental Services Department. Here today to just share some information. We've been in the news quite a bit lately. I would imagine that's led to the invitation here today. So again, thank you for the information. I'm here to provide you with information on our department's past, present, and what you're most likely interested in the future of what's going to happen with all of the facilities and the services that we provide for Virginia and all of our customers within our solid waste management area. I have a few slides here. I'll run through them quickly, certainly ask questions along the way, but I'll stand for questions at the end of the presentation.
Oh, thank you.
So my first slide here is, we call it the Integrated Solid Waste Management System, because it's more than a dump. Because we get 50 calls a day, we have, and I have a few slides that outline some of our services in our facilities. Covers obviously a large geographical area, and it includes a lot of dumps, because everybody says, when's the dump open? And we have 20 facilities that everybody calls the dump. The official landfill is obviously within the city limits of Virginia, and that's what we're talking about today. And Jen, I can't get the arrows to work. Yeah, I'm trying the down arrows. Oh, sorry. So just a little background, like I said, past, present, and future. A long delay, obviously. Will the mouse work better? Hitting the down arrow, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Is that the mouse? Just click it.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, just a little background, because a lot of folks don't know some of these stats. The department was established in 1995. There's a lot of authorities out there, a lot of just kind of area. Every township had and a city had a dump. We were consolidating all that back in 1995. Some of the mission statements to, again, develop sustainable integrated solid waste management system. We have 70 different private contracts that allow us to operate efficiently. Obviously, we offer numerous facilities and programs, and we obviously have a regulator, the MPC, and I'll get into that a little bit, with any new, mostly unfunded mandates as they come along. Continued with some of the services that we provide. Obviously, the flagship of our operation is the regional landfill in Virginia. We have 5 transfer stations distributed around our service area. Like I said, obviously a very big geographical area. Aurora, Cook, Brookston, Ely, and Hibbing are those transfer stations. 15 canister sites, 2 permanent household hazardous waste facility, 10 demolition collection sites, 55 roll-off collection sites. I know Virginia just made some changes to their curbside, and we put another roll-off location within the city of Virginia. And the only materials processing facility in northeast Minnesota. And again, that's some of the other misinformation that we have out there, because that recycling facility is down the landfill road, so everybody assumes that as the recyclables head down that landfill road, they're just going into the landfill. So we have to correct folks on that because state mandates, obviously, if we collect recyclables, we have to recycle them. So they go to that facility, which is right before the landfill. This is just a visual aid map of the facilities that we have out there spread across our area. Now the WLSSD, I'll be getting into that a little bit and define that a little bit more. Obviously, that is the green area down in Duluth proper, Proctor, Hermantown. That's the other solid waste management area in St. Louis County. The only 2 counties out of the 87 actually have 2 solid waste management areas, Carlton, because WSSD gets into Carlton County as well, but it's essentially the 88th county when it comes to solid waste management as defined by the MPCA. Just a little bit more background. There's 20 MSW landfills in Minnesota. The last permitted MSW landfill was the regional landfill in Virginia. That was back in 1993. And obviously, we had a very small footprint. We didn't have any room to expand for all of those years. We were very protective of the folks that we service, obviously Virginia being one of the largest cities in our management area. So we had prices for outside waste, but we really didn't take any outside waste because we wanted to preserve that airspace and make that landfill, 42-acre landfill, last as long as it could. And with current fill volumes of about 55,000 tons a year, or about 80,000 cubic yards, we had about another 20 years in that original footprint, that 42-acre footprint. 4.2 million cubic yards is what that was permitted for. And this is just another map that kind of shows all of the, I think there's one extra in here that has closed, but you can see the St. Louis County landfill all alone up in the northeast portion of the state. And this, again, just outlines some of the landfill wastes. MSW is municipal solid waste, your regular household garbage. That contains most of what's going in a landfill. Obviously, other things end up there in that landfill, like construction and demolition waste, and industrial waste. And I put including biosolids in parentheses because that's a pretty important piece of the future of what my future slides will talk about. The Biosolids Site Authority, that includes the Quad Cities, had obviously, actually our board, let me back up a little bit, our board had the foresight to do what we're doing currently at that landfill, which allowed us to actually expand for the first time ever. And now we are going to take biosolids because everybody's heard the acronym PFAS. We're putting a leachate treatment system, a $22 million leachate treatment system that actually pulls PFAS out of the leachate. And now biosolids eventually won't be allowed to be land applied, and that's why we did a land trade, and which offered us the possibility of expansion up at that landfill for the first time in the history of that landfill. Special wastes, some of the other special waste that we take up there, 2 household hazardous waste facilities, obviously traditional recyclables, and the other list of special waste that are mandated that can't go into a landfill. Just another map that talks about just our recycling program. And again, state mandate-wise, just for a little bit more background on this, the state statute for the county that requires the county to collect recyclables is any city within our solid waste management area over the population of 5,000, we have to provide a recycling opportunity. The recycling opportunity for Virginia is the mixed recycling facility. We don't have to provide any roll-offs out there. This is all voluntary. And that's what we obviously wanted to do and continue to do. We subsidize that program by at least $500,000 every year. Hibbing is the other one, and we provide that service at the Hibbing transfer station. So everything else is voluntary. I mentioned our regulator. These are some of the things and the hoops that we have to jump through for just establishing a landfill or re-permitting a landfill, or again, for some of the future discussion, establishing a new landfill. We have to go through a solid waste management planning process every 10 years. For the first time in the county's history, in the region's history, we did a regional plan in 2023. And that outlined our current system and facility, including the Virginia Regional Landfill. You can see it was the only landfill in the 7-county region, and the only mixed recycling facility. And it also outlined the future facility, which we're looking at as a concurrent facility to the regional landfill in Canyon. And I'll get into some of those specifics in a couple of slides. The solid waste permitting, we're going through a new 10-year permitting plan, which it includes the expansion and environmental review, which, because of the additional waste we're planning on taking from the Duluth and its joint powers partners, that will include a environmental impact statement for the expansion. And then the certificate of need process, which is an official process that the MPCA goes through, where they essentially ask you to provide information on why we need additional space and maybe another landfill. And so the current system, we again, some of the things that were in the news, we've had a lot of firsts in the state and some in the country, actually, with this Virginia landfill. So we're pretty proud of our small facility up there. We had our first ever geothermal cell construction that provided pretty simple concept, obviously, like an in-ground system. We laid that in the bottom of a landfill. Waste breaks down for many, many years at about 130, 140 degrees, and we're going to capture all that heat and ship it to our new leachate treatment facility and use that as the primary heat for that facility's energy needs. And obviously the expansion, and that, by the way, that PFAS system and the leachate system is one of the first in Minnesota and for the PFAS control in the country. So expansion options, obviously I talked about how that and what we did leading up to the land trade that offered us the ability for some expansion of that facility. And then the other piece of this, I mentioned the concurrent Canyon landfill development, included a land transfer that was done a few years back by the proactive and leadership and the foresight that the board has. That transferred tax forfeited land in and around the existing industrial and demolition facility that Waste Management runs in the area, about 800 to 900 acres in that area that is now county-owned for gravel pit extraction, and essentially you got to build a hole to fill a hole. So eventually a landfill, a concurrent landfill that would service the rest of the region in that area. And I'll get into some of the, I think I have a map that shows some of the old legacy dumps, and that's what we were looking at for that very large facility in Canyon. Again, a concurrent facility is what we're shooting for. We're currently, we got a $2.1 million state appropriation last year, and we're currently doing all the environmental review on that 800 acres right now. And we're still pursuing state bonding for additional revenue to get that facility created and opened and running. Did I go the other way? Okay. And this is just, again, a depiction of the purple is our current facility. We just built the last 3 in the northwest corner of the purple footprint, 42-acre footprint. The orange is our conceptual expansion area. Again, for reference, the permitted capacity of the purple is 4.2 million. It's opened back in '93. We had 20 more years at current rates. We're looking at taking about, like I said, 55,000 tons. We're looking at taking an additional 100,000 tons from Duluth and its joint powers partners. The proposed expansion area, which could be a little bit bigger, is an additional 12 to 15 million cubic yards. And with the addition of Canyon being developed, we're looking at 200-year facilities. And then up in the top is just, I think it's actually inverted on the next conceptual engineering drawing that just depicts all the cells being created. Some of the storage ponds up in the northwest corner, and an additional acreage for spray application after everything is treated. We're primarily focused on PFAS removal, but we test and have limitations for everything from boron to nitrogen, so we have loading limits on there, and it will treat 200 different parameters that we actually have to test for in that leachate. Because ultimately, our receiving water on land application facilities is the groundwater. So we have to be very protective of the groundwater. In the MPCA, obviously, we have very stringent rules. I think there was 8 of those 20 facilities that actually land apply. Those are probably going to go away, or they have to go towards what we have kind of blazed the trail in doing. So everybody's going to follow St. Louis County's lead on this and either develop something like this or send it to a wastewater treatment plant where it just, again, there's no treatment per se, especially for PFAS. It just gets passed through, and the solution to pollution is dilution because it goes to a surface water, Mississippi River, Lake Superior. So again, we're ahead of the environmental control game for sure. I'm assuming this is the slide that everybody's most concerned with on the council and the mayor here. The re-permit, the future system, right? The permitting process for Virginia, which includes expansion, is a 10-year permit that we're currently just starting right now. And concurrently, we're going through, again, the Canyon process. That's behind the re-permitting process, we're doing the environmental review there. But the next step is by 2026, we're hoping it actually is completed before that. The upgraded leachate treatment system that's on site. The WSSD contract that you've seen in the news was just signed. That's a 10-year contract. They will start bringing waste to the Virginia facility in July 1 of 2026. Within that contract, there's CPI escalators, annual CPI escalators, and a couple lines down, we talk about our tip fee reduction recommendation that I will recommend to the committee and then ultimately to the board for all of our existing customers, including the city of Virginia. Coochin County I put in there because they have a contract with Marshall-Kitson County that's expiring in 2025, and as part of the solid waste management planning process, they have the option to come to Virginia as well. So we're currently talking to those folks. But the tip fee reduction right now, and what I'm going to recommend this fall, and you can see that it would start January 1, 2026, would be the total $68.93 includes all of the solid waste management tax, and that's a 17% tax, state tax, that they put on whatever tip fee that we recommend. So won't get into all those numbers, but the main number that you'd have to worry about today is you're paying $68.93 total today, and January 1 in 6 months. My recommendation is all of our customers would be paying $49.36, which again, with what Virginia sends to that landfill, would equate to a savings of $130,000 annually. And then Canyon development I mentioned for regional waste, and both of them will be 100-year facilities and hopefully clean up some of the legacy wastes. I mean, we've been focused on the Rock Ridge dump that's right out in front of the school right now in Eveleth, and looking at how we can get that cleaned up as well. So I think I have a couple of, this is the Canyon facility, conceptual design out in Canyon. Obviously kind of a similar setup from Virginia. Virginia is the boilerplate that we would use to site that facility. It's just a lot of acreage in that facility that's could be utilized. And then I had, if I can stop on that one, this is just a quick map that shows some of the legacy dumps. Like I said, every township, every city, every location had a dump back in the day. And like the East Mesaba was just a bigger dump. It was just an unlined landfill. There's 250 of those in St. Louis County, equating to somewhere around 14 to 15 million cubic yards of waste, of legacy waste that still is contaminating to this day because they are unlined, and we do see PFAS in pretty much every water well that you want to sample because of some of the activities, and mostly the dumps. You can see how many dumps are actually out there within St. Louis County. And then just questions that you may have, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity and the time.
Well, first of all, Mr. Fink, once again, thank you very much for coming. It's very, very informative. Questions that the City Council have, I think you've answered many of the questions we have, laid out a plan for the future moving forward, particularly for the usage of the landfill in Virginia, and how effective if your other communities are coming to our landfill, or at least Virginia location of the landfill, how long is that going to buy? Is that going to reduce the years of providing the service, and how is that going to affect us in the future? So you've explained the expansion of the geothermal piece of it, how it's going to dissipate the refuse more quickly. The other issue for me, and then we'll go on to the rest of the council, is that, thank you, the recommendation of $68.93 to $49.36 with the savings of Virginia of $130,000 annually is well received. I mean, we have a budget that we're going to be looking at. The second part of that is that we are considering, and we're just in the discussion stages now, the embryonic stages of looking at what we could do to solidify and ensure for the future our enterprise fund for our solid waste collection system, well, with our current service. And part of that is potentially looking at establishing a fee, an additional fee to the residents to try to determine, how we can make sure the integrity of our solid waste is considered for the far future. And that includes, of course, the services they provide and all the equipment that needs to be done, plus the salary and benefits for the employees that do that. And so this $130,000 would be a significant savings for us. In addition to that, we're considering putting a fee on there. I don't know how that's going to work. We're still discussing that. I'll probably have some discussions with St. Louis County with respect to how that works and how we're going to do that and how that's going to be collected, if we, in fact, we do decide that's what we're going to do. But we need to incorporate that into our future plans for our enterprise fund. Secondly, the acreage that's being expanded in the Virginia landfill area was unknown or unbeknownst to so many of the people that's in the general public. And for us to be able to disseminate information was, sporadic. And for you to come here today, you've really laid it all out for us on how that works forward and what the really solid management plan that you have moving forward for solid waste is very well thought and well received. And for the county board and for the county representatives, and I want to recognize Commissioner of 6th District, Keith Nelson, for being here today. Thank you. About how important it was to get state bonding for that. So this is a first, maybe I don't know the nation, but of course in Minnesota, of the plans moving forward to regulate the refuge and make this a better, safe place to compile and to distribute and to manage the solid waste that we have here. So thank you for that. So we'll move on to our city councilors for any other questions we have. Mr. Fink, Councilor Motley.
I just want to say thank you for coming and giving us this information. It's nice to put a face to the name. I remember your name coming across as a big recommendation for an outsourcing possibility for the city of Virginia that we chose not to do. Question I have is, we've heard that our tipping fees and the illegal dumping continues in Virginia, and since it doesn't appear we'll be locking any cans or trying to find ways to fix it at the moment, how can our tipping fees go down with you guys, which I appreciate hearing that information, $130,000, but how can the tipping fees go down when the illegal dumping is increasing?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Motley. We do have, obviously, a very big problem across the county with illegal dumping. Again, back to the board and the commissioners, we've actually set up, and we just hired a deputy that is exclusively an environmental services, environmental illegal dumping type deputy, blight. He looks at all of those things across the county. It's a huge problem across the county. We're rural. Everybody, has rural property out there, and there's a lot of woods to hide stuff in, for sure. So it's an ongoing issue with us, and the board has been, again, proactive in hiring that deputy and then establishing an annual fund that actually is exclusive to some of those cleanups out there. I know he doesn't really work if individual cities have their own ordinance requirements and blight ordinance requirements. He kind of works with cities if they don't have that within their ordinance, but mostly within St. Louis County proper, in the townships and everywhere else on the illegal dumping. So we don't want to step on toes if the individual cities have their own blight ordinances, but we're always willing to help with those. I'm not sure about reducing tip fees, but I know we work with the land department on a lot of the tax forfeit cleanups within the cities as well, and that pot of money that was established by the board actually is focused on those cleanups within the cities. So, and we've done several of those in Virginia.
And then just a random other question, thinking about recycling. Is our county recycling center, it's not single phase, correct?
No, it's not single stream. It's what they call dual stream, but it's many streams. It's plastic, tin, aluminum, we call core, that all comes together, and then it's mixed paper, cardboard, and glass on the other streams.
Do you ever foresee us moving to single phase? Or?
We've talked about that a lot, but like I said, we're the only recycling facility and I understand as I'm learning a little bit more statewide that most folks, including Duluth and WSSD, actually loose hauls all of it to a facility that they partner with in the metro area that has a lot of the optical sorters and things like that, the equipment to be able to do single stream efficiently. We've looked at it. We've actually applied for many, many grants to add optical sorters and eddy currents, which is essentially a magnet for the aluminum, to pull that out because we've had the same human crew up there for probably, I think the facility was established in 2020. And so it's been operating for 25 years with essentially the same crew, and it's going to be really hard, if at all possible, to replace. So we're looking at what we can do in the future. Single stream could be, something that if we get the equipment or we have to loose haul to somebody else that has the equipment, we would look at that for sure.
Okay, I'm just random thinking of ways to save money, which I have nothing to do with county, but I'm like, if you could save money in single phase, that might affect us also. But anyway, Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for your question.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. Quick question as well, or more of a statement. Back in the day when I was a younger man working for the St. Louis County Sheriff's Department, you had an environmental deputy that worked there back in the day. I believe his name was Deputy Bill Gumbel. So you're just revisiting this and moving forward that, and I thought that was a very effective way, because being part of that organization and being an investigator on the department and having to investigate a lot of these things it is a huge problem, and it's a huge challenge for you in St. Louis County proper in that regard. So it's a lot easier to manage things within a municipality, but out in the county it's much more difficult, easier to hide all that waste and blight and those kind of things. So I'm happy to see that you're taking steps in that regard too as well. Any other questions from the council in respect to this? Well, it was a great presentation, Mr. Fink. Thank you for taking the time to do it. If it's possible, could we get a copy of the slide presentation in the event that we need, we could use it as a reference guide for educational purposes in case somebody calls?
Absolutely, and like I said, as we were going through the process with the MPCA, none of this, is finalized. We're assuming that it's just, formality at the end of the day, but again, before we finalize some of this, we didn't want to really get it out there as much in the public. So we were going to come to you eventually, but I really appreciate the opportunity to do so now, because really I think it is kind of a formality, because we're really leading the state in this. So we do have the MPCA behind us in all of the efforts that we're going through. So.
And in discussion with Commissioner Nelson on a number of issues, particularly this one, he kept me well informed about the process moving forward and the expansion that you're getting. So 20 years isn't necessarily 20 years, right? So we know that any additional landfill, solid waste that's coming to our landfill, there's a plan to do for expansion for the longer term in concert with the Canyon project.
Absolutely. I've said it many times to my board, but this is about as exciting as solid waste management can get. So, we really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fink. Mr. Nelson, anything you'd like to add? Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Mr. Fink. Thank you. Okay, we'll move back up to the top line on the agenda. Mr. Purva Patel, regarding the hotel update. I did have a conversation with Mr. Patel earlier today, and we've met in the last couple of weeks. And he's asked to come to the meeting to give us a general information about the hotel project update, and any specific information about timelines and things are still, specific timelines are still in the works, but I think we're going to have some good information about how we're going to move forward immediately. And then any questions that you may have later on, Mr. Patel will be around to answer those. Welcome, Mr. Patel. Please announce your name for the record, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting.
Sure, Purva Patel. And I am sorry I haven't seen you guys in a while, so I apologize. It's a little loud. So once again, thank you again. The good news is we are still moving forward and still committed to the hotel end of it, and as well as the apartment complex. It's taken us a little while. We've had hiccups, but I think everything else is solid right now. I don't, economy, blah, blah, blah. But as it stands right now, we're moving forward, and you will see things happening this summer and early fall, and we'll try to get vertical by winter time. So not to get into specifics yet, but you will see things happening with the hotel. We are still continuing it. The hotel has increased in the total room count of 119 units. We may scale it back, but we also have a pool that is on the exterior that I'm working with Marriott right now to kind of enclose that, which is not their prototype. They're usually outdoors. So I think everything's all moving forward. Once again, I apologize. I know that we need to do an update on our development agreement, so I believe Britt and Jenny and Pam are working on it. And so we'll see more progress, and you'll see a little bit more of me this year. Once again, I'm sorry that I haven't been around, but until I have a definite, that's why I waited. But just note that I promised a hotel, and that's been a lengthy while, but I will deliver it, yeah?
Well, I'll just have one question, Mr. Patel, and then we'll move on to first Councilor Bondage and over to Councilor Motley. When can we expect to see something that the public can focus on?
Within 30 days.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Bondage?
Thank you. And I think that was my question. The public has been eagerly awaiting
Yes.
something to happen. So thank you for coming and giving us an update, and we look forward to seeing action.
No,
Thank you.
definitely.
Councilor Motley?
I was also curious as to when we might see some groundbreaking. I just want to express my gratitude and thank you for your commitment to this project. This is going to be big, as we know, for our Iron Trail Motors Event Center. So we appreciate your continued commitment and look forward to seeing some groundbreaking action. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, thank you. Thank you guys for your patience too. It's been a tough road, and I think we will be happy when we're enjoying ourselves in the lobby one of these days. So sooner than later.
And it's encouraging that we're still on track for the hotel project, because it's such an important piece for the success of that whole economic development, particularly as it companions and comports with the Iron Trail Motors Event Center as well. And so, and also the information you just provided to us about moving forward with the apartment piece of it, or the lack of a better term, those other pieces as well. So I appreciate that, Mr. Patel. And so we're looking forward to seeing more.
Oh, that'd be great. The second phase, which is the apartment complex, will probably happen, and you'll see me in front of you guys about that, probably some parts early 26. Okay, so as far as the second phase is concerned. Okay?
And just one more question.
Uh-huh.
Once you get started, moving forward with the site prep and the footings and foundations, what would be an estimated timeline for completion?
So, assuming everything goes well, and you're looking at approximately 12 months in total from actual groundbreaking to the actual furniture and staff being fully vested in and operating.
Well, thank you. And just for the general public, real quickly, this is a project that's been in the works for a long time. I think it's a big coup to get the Marriott brand to accommodate your plans. It was something that the council asked that it be. The good reservation system is going to, and then all the infrastructure that you're putting in there, all the time and efforts, and all the additional amenities that are provided in this hotel that you're promoting, as opposed to some of the other hotels that have been in the area where you're going to have a security system, you're going to have a security guard there, you're going to have 24-hour coverage there, you're going to have a separate room, for the hockey to play. I mean, all those kind of things that you're putting together are unique to other hotels that are in this area. So we thank you for that concept as well.
No problem. I've got an electric car, and I think Larry and I talked about it. We'll also have an electric charger that's high speed, so hopefully, well, we get that in there as well. I think that there's a need there.
Any questions for Mr. Patel? Thank you for making a long trek up here.
Oh, no worries. I'm going to head back in a little while, so I'll sit for a little bit longer.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 3 on the agenda, Matt Reed. Matt, you've been very patient. Matt Reed has A, B, C, D, E on our agenda. The first is moving forward. Matt, if you want to give us a little update, and then we'll take each item one by one. Good morning, Matt Reed, SCH, our engineer of record.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, let's start with number 1, or A, I should say. So actually, A and E are very similar, so I'll talk about both of them, and then you can address them individually, as you had indicated, Mayor. We're getting close to the end of the 6th and 7th. What? Oh, there's an updated.
Oh, there was an update. A is we're going to be discussing the resolution for the supplemental letter of agreement for the 6th Avenue West and 17th Street final assessments, right?
Correct.
And then item E is approve the resolution for the supplemental letter for 10th Avenue and 13th Street South, which is the final assessments. Would you like a copy of the? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Councilor Buckschneider. Matt?
Okay, so we're getting close to wrapping up 6th and 17th. 6th is paved now, 17th is being paved today. And they've just got a few punch list items left. And so then, of course, as we wrap up and get the paperwork finalized, we will move into the all this fun assessment hearing and putting together all that information with all the final costs and everything. So that's what this agreement is for. And similarly, the 10th and 13th one, that is supposed to be paved hopefully later today, if they can get 17th done. If not, probably tomorrow. So that one's even closer to being done. So once that gets paved, there's a couple of minor punch list items they still have left, but similar situation where then we're gonna have to move into, we're hoping that if we can hold the public hearing for all the projects together, that'll save a little bit of money on this. I set the agreements up in case everything ends up going separate, but we can try to condense some of that and make it a little more economical, but that's what those two are for. So I can pause there and see if anybody has any questions.
A quick question for you, Pam. So item A and E, when we set up a public hearing for the assessments, can we do A and E together in one public hearing? Do we have to have two separate? Yeah, we can do it in one? Okay. A and E is two separate motions.
You can bump that, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start with A and E and then go to D. 3A is a request to approve the resolution for the supplemental letter for the 6th Avenue West and 17th Street South final assessment.
So move.
Move to approve by Councilor Buckschneider. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, approve the resolution for the supplemental letter agreement for the 10th Avenue West and 13th Street South final assessments.
So move.
Move to approve by Councilor Buckschneider. Is there support? Support. By Councilor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Do we need to set up the public hearing now for that, or do we wait later on down the road here?
No, we're not ready for that yet, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, let's move to item 3D. Approve the resolution receiving the feasibility report and calling for a public hearing for the 2026 to 2028 Street Infrastructure Improvement Project.
So move.
A move to approve by Counselor Bachschnider and supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? And this includes the monster 6th Avenue project. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3B. Approve the resolution for the professional services agreement for the splash pad infrastructure.
So moved.
Who moved? Who moved?
Liz.
Yeah, moved by Counselor Motley, supported by Counselor Beyondich. Further discussion? I believe in the splash pad, but for the record, I don't like the location. I should think it should be in Alcott Park because it's an amenity for all the kids to use. They have to go to a separate location in order to accomplish. I don't like it there, but such is life. I just want to say that for the record. Counselor Bachschnider.
Thank you. And this project is fully grant funded, is that correct?
Close. There's a grant for, we did get an MPCA grant for $500,000 for this, and it's only gonna be enough to cover, you've probably seen the master plan, maybe you haven't, but if there is, there's a bigger plan for the park. It'll be enough hopefully to cover the splash pad, and this agreement that I've got is for the utilities to get the splash pad put in. Whatever we get, we do have a 10% match that the city can do in kind, I believe, or we'll have to come up with some funds for. I do think there is some efforts to look for some additional grant funding as well ongoing, so we'll keep plugging away. But if nothing else happens, we have $500,000 in grant with a 10% match that the city can match with in-kind funds or in-kind work. So we'll get as far as we can with the money that we have. That make sense?
It does, thank you. I just don't think that a splash pad should be funded by the taxpayers of Virginia. I really see it as a community project, so that's where I'm coming from in my questioning. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Bachschnider. Okay, for me, once again, there's just a quick question, or two actually. Is this splash pad funding by the master plan moving forward? Is that officially tied into that location?
Nope, it's not.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know for that. And secondly, the infrastructure costs associated with that, as in the master plan, could that be, if there's a decision and if it's moved elsewhere, say for example to Alcott Park, and say for example it's close to that very open area that I met with a lot of citizens about, which is not too far from the fountain, which kind of makes sense to me. There's water infrastructure there. Would there be any? Would we, not that we would put it there for that reason, but would we save any money if we had it there, but with the water infrastructure already there? Or it's difficult to say?
Have to do a little more research on that. With the volume of water that the fountain probably uses, and then now the extra volume of water that the splash pad would need to use, we would probably need a bigger pipe. I don't know that for sure. That's a possibility. The other thing to keep in mind is where do we put the water when it discharges from the splash pad?
So being at the beach area, that would flow right back into Silver Lake?
That is the current plan, as I understand it. There's going to be some permitting that needs to be done with the MPCA and the DNR, of course.
Of course.
But that is part of the effort, is to try and put the discharge water back into Silver Lake.
And then there's been some consideration of additional plans between the dock, where the old gun club is, the loading, the access dock area, that whole area that's kind of green space, got a couple of picnic tables in there, some trees. That goes right to the beach. So if the splash pad is on the beach, that whole open area is available for expansion. We haven't discussed how that would be, how moving forward, but there's been a lot of talk about, there's been some discussions early in years past about putting like hookups in there for these travel trailers and things of that nature to help bring tourism back in here. So that was just a part of the discussion. So this splash pad that's put there wouldn't have an adverse effect on that. It could actually complement it. But again, and I would like to see a little bit more discussion about the location, but whatever the council decides to do, that's the route we're going to take. So moved and supported. Has it been moved and supported? Further discussion, Councilor Beyondich.
And I believe the company that you are working with, I had met them when I went to a League of Minnesota Cities down in Duluth and talked to them, and they provided the splash pad for Plover, Wisconsin, which we talked at length about, because that also was adjacent to a small lake in their community, which they were able to reopen as a beach. And I was just there a month or two ago. They now have kayaks, they have paddle boards. They've been able to utilize that little lake that is right, it dumps right into that lake and has helped the lake actually. That's where I got on the conversation with the splash pad, was meeting the company that actually put one in Wisconsin. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt. Is that everything?
One more.
One
Item
more.
C.
Let's go on. Item C is, the 3C is discuss the 507 Second Street North retaining wall project, which is for the edification and for additional information for the general public. This is a retaining wall that has collapsed years ago. It's a narrow alleyway behind the Circle K, the former Holiday Inn or the Holiday gas station, and it's affecting some of the resident over there. And we're looking at putting a retaining wall in. We did discuss it at the previous committee of the whole meetings, and I think we've come up with a design to do that. There's some funding issues there, so I think the purpose here is to discuss this. Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. So a quick update. Yes, we've gone back and forth on a couple of different ideas on how to fix the problem. We've met with the property owner a couple of different times. We've had a couple of contractors look at it. Due to the nature of the project and it being quite small and the time of the year, we're having a difficult time getting somebody interested in doing it, at least for a reasonable price. We did get, I would call it a courtesy bid from somebody saying, hey, yeah, we'll help the city out. It's just going to be a little more expensive. Appreciate that they did that, quite frankly, because we weren't able to get anybody. So my recommendation is this. We're going to be right in that area next year doing the 6th Avenue project. And if we just rolled this in, if we can get by with it the way it's been for another few months, a year, let's call it, we could roll that into this 6th Avenue project, assuming that moves forward, and we can just put it in as part of the bid. I think we'll get a much more economical solution to that, or economical bid, if you will, for that work. It's not a lot of work, and I can understand where if they have to mob a bunch of equipment in there to get it done, where it's going to be a little higher. If the equipment's already there, I think we can do it much more economically. And the way that we had left it with the property owner is that in lieu of a retaining wall, we'd actually just build a curb, standard curb and gutter in there. And I think it'll accomplish what he wants, and it will be a much more conducive final result for plows and everything else, so they're not banging that retaining wall around and all of that. So that's my recommendation to the council. I know everybody wants to wrap it up, get it done, but I think if we can just don't lose sight of it, but just back burner it for now and bring it back with the project next summer, we'll get a much more economical price for it.
And in speaking to that homeowner, he's been very patient and very reasonable, very understanding, and very amenable. So I think he, as long as we're scheduling to get it done, I think he's pleased that it's going to happen. So it's not going to have an adverse effect on the property and the damage he's already experienced as a result of that. So I think that's a great recommendation. It makes a lot of sense moving forward. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And I would like to thank you for bringing that forward. I think that's a great idea, and you were able to work with the homeowner as well. So thank you.
Yep.
So do we need a motion at this point in time? I think it's just a discussion, Pierce. And so when this project comes forward, then we'll roll that into that. At that time, we'll make a motion to do so. We can do it now?
Sure.
So move.
Moved by Counselor Bachschnider. Is there support by Counselor Beyondich to roll this into next year's Sixth Avenue project, the retaining wall project at 507 6th Street North? It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it very much. Okay, item 4, thank you. Sean Lewis from Carl Anderson, update on soil remediation at the Public Safety Center. And we have hopes that there would be none. Mr. Lewis from Carl Anderson, good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and staff. Always a pleasure to be here with you. Again, my name is Sean Lewis. I'm a senior project manager for Krause Anderson Construction, in charge of the new public safety facility on 2nd Avenue. Are we able to share on the screen today? Does somebody have that?
Jenny, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll just grab it if I press this here. What's going on? Here we go. Moment, Mr. Mayor, while we set up my PowerPoint here.
Okay, thank you.
While Jenny's doing it, and thank you for your help, Jenny, I am here with some updates for the new public safety facility, and here we go on the screen now. So general updates, and then also specifically, like you mentioned, some updates on contaminated soil that we encountered. Project is on track. We are within budget and we are on schedule. Right now, we're on track for opening or fully operational sometime in September, probably middle of September.
Up from August.
Pardon me?
Up from August.
Fully operational September. We're anticipating moving in August, and that usually takes about a month for moving furniture in and fixtures, and then staff getting trained in on the facility and settling in. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Quick overall budget update as we move into the updates on soil remediation, because that's the primary content I have for today. I did hand out a paper copy of this budget 2 weeks ago, and last time I was here at the Committee of the Whole. Again, we do have a balanced budget, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time specifically on this, but like I said, I handed out a paper copy 2 weeks ago. Again, the important thing I wanted to point out is the owner contingency we have right now of $660,000, and also the $67,000 or $67,685 that we had set aside for the contaminated soil remediation we were anticipating this spring. That's mainly what I want to talk about today. So $67,000 was what we'd set aside for it, and that's a segue into the update on contaminated soil. So in this area, generally speaking, which is in the southwest area of the site, there is planned to have stormwater retention ponds. Well, one's retention pond, one's a filtration basin. There's different nomenclature for how those are meant to function. The point is that they're for stormwater management on the south part of the site, and it actually rainwater is conveyed from the impervious surface down to this area. So we had waited until the spring to excavate these basins so we don't have a big pond to manage during the course of construction. Well, we anticipated some contaminated soil, and if you remember last year, we did recommend approval to proceed forward with this up to a certain amount. We'd set aside the $67,000 to manage that. Well, as the excavation contractor was working through that last week, we started finding more and more and more and more, and it definitely became evident that it was going to be quite a bit more than the few hundred cubic yards we anticipated of contaminated soil. So we stopped work. midway through last week. And NTS has been working alongside of us through the course of this, through the whole process. And we asked them to get samples of the additional contaminated soil that we were finding. And the reason we are suspecting it's contaminated is because it has an odor, a petroleum odor, smells like diesel, is what guys in the field are communicating and reporting. So we have testing in at the lab right now, and we're waiting for results this week. So like I said, we stopped work, and we're looking at a significant amount more than what we anticipated. We already tackled some of this last year. I do have some. So these are the ponds that we're working on currently on the south side. So it's the pond on that southwest corner or lower left of the screen there that where we're starting to run into more contaminated soil than was anticipated. And again, as a review, when we go into these projects, NTS has been working with the city and us on this. We do borings at these different locations on the site detail map on the screen here, and it really gives us an indicator or a sampling of areas that may or may not be contaminated. Well, the areas between there is where we're finding more and more contaminated soils that we were not aware of. Yes, sir.
So, question as we move forward, it might be a little premature. So, it's not unusual for us to find contaminated soil in many areas of Virginia, and there's been a couple of projects where we've had to, we've provided the land for for private investment, and after digging, they found contaminated soil, and we weren't able to, cost way too much money to remediate it. So we just covered it up, buried it, and ensured there was not going to be any more construction or anything. It would be identified in the plan that this is contaminated soil and no other construction can be done on it. So my question to you is that a possibility moving forward in that area? Or is that going to be an encumbrance on the footprint of the public safety building?
Great question, Mr. Mayor. I pulled together the team in kind of a quick emergency meeting, so to speak, Thursday afternoon or Thursday night last week. And that's the question we worked on for about an hour altogether. The question being really, can we redesign what's on the screen here to avoid having to dig further into what appears to be contaminated soil? We unfortunately kept circling back to that would be really difficult at this point to not continue with what we have designed here for several different constraints that are there. One, for example, on the higher elevation of pond that goes kind of at an angle here. I should even maybe what I'll do is here. Well, at any rate, there's a sewer line that runs kind of at an angle between the two ponds on the lower portion of the site there for one constraint, and then we've got Second Avenue on one side, and then the property line on the other side. And we also have, if you can see on the screen, the solar array for the ground portion of the solar array is planned to go right in that southeast corner. So all of the site's already really tight. The other option we did explore a little bit, and there's a lot more work we would need to do on this one, is if we were to move the solar array to a different spot, even across the alley where Kraus Anderson's construction trailer is. But that opens up potentially a whole nother potentially several cans of worms.
Understandable.
And one being, we already know, and I'm just sharing a few nuggets of some of the things some of the roadblocks we kept hitting when we were trying to answer that question. Even on this report, we did, NTS did some soil borings in that area I mentioned across the alley over there, and we know there's also contaminated soil over there.
Right.
So what we ran into is if we were to redesign this pond system right now, it would more likely than not cause some delays to this part of the project. We don't know how that would affect everything on the whole project quite yet. B, there's a significant chance we're going to encounter contaminated soil if we move things around in other portions, other options for an area. And there's really no modifying this format or layout of ponds. We looked at maybe moving things, kind of sliding things to the east, but we're not able to do that with the solar array and the ground array. Again, that's required by the B3 because of the particular funding source of this project. So I anticipate that would be your answer.
knowing the schematics and the information that was provided earlier on in this project, moving forward, particularly with the abandoned buildings that are still on the northeast side of the building that were left for that particular reason.
Yeah.
But, so my second question then, segue into that, is that how far are we going to have to dig? Is it right to the footprint, or are we obligated to go farther outside the footprint of this project?
Yeah, great question, Mr. Mayor. Also another question we explored when we were, digging deeper into this, no pun intended. We can stop once we get to the point of constructing what we intended on constructing. There are certain parameters, and I'm going on NTS's and professional knowledge on this one too, that there are certain parameters where we can stop, and if we have a knowledge there's some contaminated soil, we can leave it there, and it has to be encased with like a certain number of fill on top of it. Does that answer your question? Like, we don't need to keep going to do all of it. We just need to do the project that we're planning on doing, and there are certain parameters where we can stop, and then we can build back the project we intended on in the first place.
Okay, and that's the answer I was hoping for, because when Tritech RMS now had some issues there, some laydown areas, same thing occurred. They ran into that problem, and so after those samples were done, they said, okay, we can't build anything there. So we're just going to leave it and use it for laydown, so there's no construction underneath, but it's for laydown area, and a lot of contaminated soil there. And the over $1 million investment they'd had to make when they were redoing the highway, they found a big tank with a bunch of fuel still in it from the trains that had to be remediated, which is not very far from where we're at here.
Be interesting to know exactly where that was.
Yeah, and that was right at the turn, right at the curve coming in, so that's close.
Yeah.
And so how far do you go? If we could only have to go to the footprint of the project to keep the project moving forward, that's fine. It's just unfortunate that it's such a tight footprint that we're going to need that.
Correct.
And so-
We do not need to go beyond the property line.
Very good.
I've been
Okay,
assured
thank
of
you.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And you're going to have an estimate as to what that's going to cost later on down the road?
Correct, Mr. Mayor. So
Thank you.
here's the plan going forward right now. Today is mainly an update. I have no recommendations for any financial obligations per se at this point, including any other change order requests. Wanted to mainly make sure everybody's up to speed of what we ran into, what we dealt with, or what we're dealing with. We've stopped work in the meantime on that portion. The building itself is continuing to go forward on track, on schedule. This earthwork side is stopped for the moment. We're waiting for test results back on what exactly we're dealing with, what exactly the soil is contaminated with, in other words. And then, yes, we'll have some estimates and volumes. I mean, we are looking in the neighborhood of 20, it's a lot of cubic yards that we know we're going to have to do something with, but we don't know yet. There is that risk that, there's tanks and things like that in that area. We don't know that for sure yet either. And then at the council meeting next Tuesday night, we plan on being back here to have a plan in place to recommend for approval moving forward.
So we're discussing this at the committee whole level here today. We're not making any motions to move this forward to the city council. So when you come to the city council next week and show us this plan, we may or may not vote to approve. We may bring it back to the committee of the whole meeting. I don't know if we have to do that or not. That's been what we've done in the past. But in this particular case, you're not going to have the information. And it's not critical that, well, it could be, I don't know what the timeline is. So you stopped once you discovered, you stopped.
Yes, sir.
The investigation begins, and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is involved in this process as well,
They are at some point, yeah. Not
which
today,
we
but-
have to make a notification to by law.
Yep.
And so NCS is doing the soil borings to determine the significance of the spill, the parameters of it, how many cubic yards that we might have to remediate. And then once you figure all that out, you'll come up with a cost estimate moving forward. And your plan is to come back to the city council meeting to address that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, it's no, like you mentioned earlier, it's no secret. So yeah, the MPCA is aware of the
course.
situation. It's just quite a bit more than what we thought at this point. We thought we had gotten most of what we needed that was going to be in the way, and now it's a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. And it's a mining and industrial area that's been mined for many years, and industrialized for many years too. So the anticipation was early on in the project we would have that. It's unfortunate we're here today to discuss, the significance and the span of the issue that we have to address.
I will mention, just to make sure I'm clear on this one, it is a time-sensitive matter. So if we, hopefully the plan we have, that we can kind of have something moving forward here relatively quickly in the next week or two. Yeah, and part of that is that area where the solar array is indicated on the southeast corner. There are steps we need to take in order to have that area ready to do the solar array. And we're down to, it's middle of June, and we're down to just a few weeks left on the construction portion of the project.
And that's understandable for the two councilors that couldn't be here today. Usually we discuss at the committee of the whole meeting and then make a recommendation moving forward because we would know what the cost estimates are in that regard. But this particular case, we know it has to be remediated. We know there's going to be a cost associated with that. So I think we can take some action where we can make any adjustment we have to make in order to accommodate, any specific issue. And this is one of those that we could probably move forward with at the council meeting. And our city attorney is nodding and we could do that. And so once we educate the two councilors for next Tuesday, we'll have that opportunity to determine whether or not, where we're at as far as the anticipated costs associated with that remediation. So thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any other questions, comments from the council with respect to the update by Carl Sanderson and the soil remediation plan moving forward? None today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Mr.
councilors
Lewis.
and staff. Yep, have a good rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 5 on the agenda is review the monthly financial reports. Council, we have a meeting this morning and they talked about that a little bit. Anything that you would like to add at this committee meeting? I know that we're looking at scheduling some other more in-depth analysis on the budget, which is, thank you, Councilor Boxleiter and Councilor Bionis for moving forward with that. And so if there's anything else, move on to the next item on the agenda. Okay, thank you. Finance item number 6, approve the Sprint medical purchases. Where does this stop? It's really good that we're getting this grant moving forward, but the money that was allocated to the legislature, in my opinion, could have gone toward significant cost reduction in the way we provide our current ambulance service. So, Assistant Chief Jonason, welcome.
Good morning. Short answer, it's not going to stop for a while. You'll probably see me at every committee of the whole meeting for many months to come.
No doubt. So the question is that these A and B are approved, by the Sprint Medical state funding. Is that correct?
Correct. This will be reimbursed through that Sprint Medic pilot program.
And the item number 7 as well, or not? That's separate.
7 is separate. That's
Okay.
not Sprint Medic.
Well, let's start with item number 6A, is approve the Sprint Medical purchase, which are reimbursable through the state funds. 6A, the mobile radios and miscellaneous items at $30,223.20.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Motley. Is there support? By Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 6B, the 16 oxygen cylinders purchase of $1,904.
So moved.
A move to approve by Counselor Motley. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 7, and you can tell me if this is a budgeted item or not. Tell us, excuse me. Approve the G2 fire station alerting system with US Digital Designs. You have one in place right now?
So this is going in the new public safety.
Okay.
And actually, it was already approved through ANCOM. They were going to be the vendor to do all the installation, provide the equipment. They lost a couple of their technical experts that do the installation, so they could no longer provide that service. So essentially, we just need to reapprove with US Digitals. It's the same cost that ANCOM, so there's no change in what was already approved budget-wise for the new building. It's just a new vendor installing all of the hardware.
Same cost?
Same cost.
And I'm glad that you were doing this because this particular company, when they lost this two-person technical personnel, that tells me a lot about the ability to provide updated services and maintenance for the long term. And the example that I use is we had the camera system all across the city of Virginia, and we were sold a bill of goods on that. And the camera's fine, but the maintenance, upgrades, and the technology and the docking stations were all preliminary, and they kept it was supposed to be licensed, and now we have a mess as far as our camera systems go, and we're trying to fix those. So we don't want that same thing to happen here, the new public safety building. So appreciate your research on that and getting this done. So you're confident that U.S. Digital Designs, along with our architect and Carl Sanderson, is a company that can be relied upon in which to provide the service for not now, but for in the longer term.
Yeah. Coincidentally, ironic that the two people that left ANCOM now work for US Digitals. So the original people that were going to do the installation are going to still do it. It's just with a different company.
Okay, thank you, Assistant Chief Jonason. So looking for any questions, comments that the council has moving forward. Councilor Beyondich.
No question, I'll just move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Beyondich moves to approve the G2 Fire Station Alerting System with U.S. Digital Designs. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Jonason. Chief Frederickson, thank you very much. Okay. Item number 8, personnel. The Personnel Committee meeting that was held on June 10th, 2025. The chairman of this committee is not available today. Would another member of the Personnel Committee want to run these through, or would you like me to do so? Okay. Okay. Item 8A, these are recommendations for the Personnel Committee, which was held on June 10th, 2025. 8A is to appoint Tony Bertucci to the Cable Commission for the remainder of a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2028.
So move.
So moved by Councilor Buckschneider. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8B, appoint Brandon Russo to the Human Rights Commission for the remainder of a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2028. Move to approve by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Buckschneider. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for the two who applied for be on the commissions. This is difficult to get somebody on the Cable Commission and on the Human Rights Commission, so thank you for your volunteer for that service. Item 8C is approve the updated library clerk job description and authorize for the posting.
So moved.
A move to approve by Councilor Freely. Is there support? Is there support? Is there support? The motion fails for the lack of support. Would this move to the city council meeting anyway? It could? We should move it to the city council meeting for additional discussion. Yeah, it'll be on there. Okay, very good, thank you. Because there was no tabling motion or anything, so it can move back. Okay, very good, thank you. Item 8D, approve the posting for a temporary library aide. I'll move to approve by Councilor Freely. Is there support? Is there support? Is there support? Motion fails for lack of the support, and this item was also come back to the city council meeting. Thank you. Item 8E, approve the updated job description for the city administrator. This was a long arduous process and discussion, and I thank the Personnel Committee for vetting this out, and Councilor Boxer, I think you were in attendance as well. So looking for a motion to approve the updated job description for the city administrator.
So move.
Move to approve by Councilor Bachschnider. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8, other items of concern. Item 9, other items of concern. Does any councilor have any other items of concern they'd like to bring before the council today? I would like to say one thing for the record. There was a rally up at the Alcott Park from the King's Rally, for the lack of a better term, was happening all over the nation. The governor's office had called, and we got our police department, sheriff's department involved, and about talking to the organizers about potentially canceling the event. I was unaware of that. This order came up, or this request came up. So the police worked, I think, went up and worked with the event organizers. A very well-organized event. It was very peaceful. Of course, we, I think, as a council-elected body, particularly me as well, support anybody's right to protest in any way, shape, or form they deem appropriate, as long as it's reasonable and prudent, peaceful, and it was. Many came and continued with the rally anyway, but the concern that I have is there was some misinformation that was disseminated that the mayor, made every conceivable effort to cancel this event. And to the point where someone, I'm not saying it was from this event, someone came to my house, into the alley, swearing and hollering in a red SUV with chrome trim. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but my neighbors were, and they were very upset and fearful. And these are an elderly population up there, and I'm appalled by that kind of behavior. I don't know what happened or how that came about, but just for the record, I made no effort to cancel this, nor did any city council member. It was a protest. It was planned. It was an event that was rented. It was just fine. But when rhetoric comes about to that and people react in a manner that is inappropriate or fearful or intimidating, that's not proper behavior either. And so I don't know why this happened, and I'm not saying it came from this event, but there was some information disseminated there. So just to let everyone, for the general public, everybody has a right to protest. They had a permit, so it's not an issue. So I hope that clarifies everything for those who are in attendance. Thank you. Any items come before the committee of the whole meeting today? We will stand adjourned. It's 10:17 a.m. Thank you. Have a good day.